So I'm not going to talk much about Adknowledge or AdParlor in this. I'll give you a little bit of an overview just so you got some context of what we do. I'm actually going to talk about what I'm passionate about, which is transforming marketing. So Patrick said yesterday, you've got to love what you do, you've got to solve a big problem. I'm going to talk about the problem that we're trying to solve. And I've actually just written a book. It's called Marketing for CEOs, Death or Glory in the Digital Age. And it tries to capture the problem we're trying to solve. Let's briefly, before we get started on the company or the book, a little bit about me so you know what I'm doing. I've never studied marketing. I'm actually a civil engineer. I spent the first 10 years of my career in the British Army, basically traveling around the world, building things and blowing things up. I then spent some time at McKinsey, Coca-Cola, did various marketing jobs there. Then I was the COO of Google Europe, and I've ended up running an advertising technology company. I live in New York, although until recently I was living in Singapore, so I've lived in lots of places. So that's me. Within Asia, we actually have a joint venture with Axiata, and the main product that we've rolled out in Asia is a product called AdParlor. Again, I'm not going to dwell on it, but just so you understand the context I'm coming from, AdParlor is a platform built to help advertisers run campaigns across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr, Snapchat, etc. And it's powered by lots of data, lots of clever algorithms, and lots of clever people. So if you do want to do that well, then give us a call. The vision is to basically help advertisers take their TV budgets and run massive scale, precision-targeted video campaigns across all social networks and programmatic TV inventory sources on the planet. We've had big partnerships. As I say, our business here is a joint venture with Axiata. We also use telco data to target campaigns. We're a strategic partner of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and others. And we're global, particularly strong in North America and Asia, with smaller offices in Europe and LATAM. We actually have 150 employees in Asia in 9 different countries. So we're by far and away the biggest advertising technology company in Asia. So enough about the company, enough about me. Let's talk about marketing. Let's talk about the problem that I'm passionate about and that we as a company are passionate about. And it's this. CEOs don't trust marketing. Most CEOs think their CMO is useless and should be fired. Last year, 6 different American CEOs, or CEOs of American companies, or global companies, said to me, Ben, I'm planning to fire my CMO. Can you help me find another one? And I said, why are you asking me? I'm an engineer. And they said, well, the future of marketing is all about data and social and mobile, and you understand that stuff. And secondly, you hang out with CMOs. So you must be able to tell the idiots from the smart ones, help me find a smart one. And I thought, fine. So typically my response was, let's grab a beer. And we'd talk, and I'd commiserate, and then I'd leave them to their problems and go away and run my company. But on about conversation number 6, I said, there must be a book about this, a book about the future of marketing, a book about what should marketing be doing, what are the frameworks that we should use to think about marketing. So in a bar, on about beer 3, we opened up my laptop and went to Amazon and went to Google, couldn't find a book about the future of marketing. Could find a collection of Harvard Business Review articles, but nothing really cohesive that said, what should marketing be doing? So I thought, I'll write a book. So I did. And to sort of do it, because I was running a company at the time, I hired a researcher to go out and find lots of cool stats. And I interviewed lots of CEOs and CMOs who, luckily, I meet as part of my job anyway, and tried to pull together a book. It's only 120 pages that summarizes what marketing should be doing to survive and thrive in the future. I called it Marketing for CEOs because they were the people that asked me to write the book. Hopefully, marketing people will find it useful too, if only to keep their jobs. Now, one thing I would say is most CEOs do realize that marketing has got pretty hard lately. Everything is changing. There's more data than ever. You've got your own data. There's third-party data. Facebook has data. Telcos have data. What data do you use? How do you use it? How do you use it effectively without breaking the law? How much should you pay for that data? And that's just a data problem. Nowadays, the main way in which you interact with consumers is through a mobile phone. That changes a lot of stuff in marketing. There's sort of the pace of change is massive. Almost every new inventory source is an auction. how do you think about your pricing strategy? How much should you pay for an ad? It goes on and on. So there is a lot of complexity, and CEOs have some sympathy before they pull out their revolver and shoot you in the head. So briefly, what's in the book? It's about 12 chapters-ish, and it's a little bit about strategy, a bit about organization, and a bit about execution. Strategy is like what frameworks can help you get your head around totality of marketing. In particular, there's a zoom in on the subject of customer lifetime value, which I'll talk more about in a moment. Organization talks a bit about what should marketing be doing versus the rest of the organization. Marketing now spends more money on technology than the IT function. That has organizational implications. And then execution, a fair bit around how do you eliminate waste, how do you get started, how do you plan, how do you measure, etc. So let's start with strategy and the big picture. And I would make the case that the fundamental framework for marketers in the future is the subject of customer lifetime value. Understanding the value of your customers one by one or segment by segment so that you can have different marketing strategies and pay different prices for consumers based on different predicted lifetime value. So this is the equation. Might look a little bit scrappy from the back. It's the kind of thing that CFOs and CEOs will love. CMOs hopefully will grow to love. But if we implement the subject of customer lifetime value properly, marketing becomes a value-creating function as opposed to a cost center. So for example, if you acquire customers with a predicted lifetime value, if you let's say you acquire 1 million customers with a predicted lifetime value of $100 per customer, and let's say you only spend $10 million to acquire those customers, you've just created $90 million of shareholder value. If you can take 1 million customers and upsell them or cross-sell them in a way where the predicted lifetime value grows by $100 per person, and the marketing costs to do that are only $10 million, you've just added $90 million to your to your market cap. If you can retain 1 million customers who would have generated $100 million worth of profit, and you only spend $10 million to retain those, you just added another $90 million to your market cap. So marketing, if done well, if you measure what you spend, what you generate in those terms, you can say, here's what I did in marketing today, here's what should happen to the share price. It takes a while to get there, and it's not quite as precise as that, but that's what we should be striving towards. So let's bring that to life with a very simple example. Pizza. Domino's Pizza. Domino's Pizza is actually a customer of ours, but I've made up all the data so that I didn't need to ask permission to do this case study. So let's imagine when Domino's sells a pizza in the US, as US prices, the average spend per order is $15, the cost per order is $8, so the profit per order is $7. You with me so far? Normal way of looking at ROI is say every time I sell a pizza, I make $7. However, what about when you take the customer lifetime value view? Well, if you acquire a customer, they're going to buy more than one pizza over time. Let's say the average customer actually buys 12 pizzas a year, or makes 12 orders a year, and stays with you for about 5 years before they die of obesity. Well, that customer is worth $420 of profit. So, that's pretty good, isn't it? It's better than thinking about profit per transaction. So, question for you. How much would you spend to acquire those customers? So the customer lifetime value is $420. Would you spend $50, $150, or $300? No answer? C? C still makes sense. You spend $300, you make $420, you still created $120 of value. It's actually a trick question. The answer is you get as many as you can for $50, because why not? Acquire as many as you can cheaply. But if your competitor's prepared to pay $300, you would probably match them or beat them, because you know that if you spend $300, you're still going to make $420. That's still value creation. So it really is sort of do the efficient stuff first, but really understand what the customer's worth. But it gets a bit more complex than that, because different customers have different lifetime values. So this one, if you look at the left, these are like the best customers. Maybe this is the top 10 or 20% of customers. These have an average order of $22.50. The average profit per order is $10. But they make 26 purchases a year, so every 2 weeks. They stay with you for 10 years before they really do die of obesity, or they just get stuck in some lift or whatever and can't get out. But their lifetime profit from those enormously fat customers is $2,600. So if you pay $300 to acquire them, you're still creating an enormous amount of shareholder value. Take the right-hand side. You might have other customers who maybe only spend $12 per order, maybe the profit per order is only $5, and they buy 3 pizzas before they delete your app or decide they don't like pizza or switch to a competitor. Their lifetime value is $15. If you've paid $50 to acquire them, you're burning $35 every time you acquire a customer. You should not have targeted them or not have targeted them at that price. So you start seeing, you actually need to start segmenting and predicting who has what lifetime value, and then managing your customer acquisition, pricing and targeting, etc., to spend more for the high predicted lifetime value customers and less for the lower predicted ones, and negatively target, do not target the ones who you can't make money on. And here's another reason why you need to do this. Almost all new inventory sources are auction models. So this is data, it's actually from ourselves. We're a very big partner of Facebook. We do a lot of mobile app recommendation campaigns. When Facebook launched the mobile app ad unit in Q2 2013, the average cost of a mobile app install was $1.50. This is US prices. It's now $4.90. So prices have tripled in 3 years. And the main reason is that 3 years ago, most mobile app companies did not have mobile analytics. They did mass marketing, and they found that $1.50 was a good price. They didn't really need to think much about acquisition. They just did as much as they could. Now, everyone has clever mobile analytics, and people are picking and choosing which consumers they target, and they're paying more for the ones they target, and the auction is driving the price up. So, I would argue, actually, before I go back to that one, is that okay. I would argue that this is an existential problem. So imagine a scenario in which you've got 2 competing companies, and they're both doing mobile app distribution as a way of acquiring customers. I use that ad unit just because it's an easy one to understand. It could be any type of customer acquisition. Imagine if company A does a good job of understanding and predicting lifetime value. And they say, right, I'm going to go and acquire all the high-value customers. I'm going to bid slightly more than my competitor, but I'm only going to target people with a high lifetime value. So they go out and they spend maybe $6 or $7 acquiring customers, but the lifetime value is $15. Every time they spend money, they make money. What's company B left with? All the low-value customers. Because they're still doing mass marketing, they can't increase their price because they haven't segmented consumers based on predicted lifetime value. So what they're basically going to do is do mass marketing at an average price, but all the best customers have been picked off by their competitor. What happens every time they spend money on marketing? They destroy value, they go bankrupt. There really is the auction pricing of media and the ability to do segmentation and customer lifetime value management means that anyone that doesn't do it, if your competitor does, we're moving to a winner-takes-all scenario in which the people that crack this skill will win and everyone else will go bust. Now, in reality, in most companies, the marketing will get fired before the company goes bust, but it really is an existential issue if you get it wrong. In the interest of time, I'll skip this, but within the book, there's lots of other stuff that I'm not going to talk about today, but a lot of people say, well, lifetime value is great, but sometimes I just want to know the ROI on a campaign. The book deals with that too, because there's a lot of complexity in measuring things like TV versus video is the big one we hear is, what's my video campaign worth versus my TV campaign? It's all addressed in the book. There's a lot of stuff too around how do I build a database. If you want to get started on customer lifetime value, how do you get started? And it's not, as I've heard from some companies, oh, IT's in charge of that. They're going to spend $10 million and build a database, and in 3 years' time, we'll be ready to tackle customer lifetime value. Someone should be shot in the head for that. It's really get started now. Everyone has data now. Every company has data. Facebook has data. There's third-party data. You can start using data. You can start targeting. You can start working out who your higher value customers are, and you can target them and pay a bit more for them. You can work out who your pointless customers are and stop targeting them. So you can get started straight away, but it's a journey, and it goes on forever. Organization. This is where it gets quite fun and contentious. There is a whole chapter, given that the whole book was triggered by people saying, I plan to fire my CMO, can you help me hire another one? There's a chapter in there that says how to evaluate your CMO. So any CEOs in the audience or investors for that matter, if you want to know if your CMO is good enough, read that chapter. There's a whole, it's very pragmatic. It's like a checklist. Are they doing this? Rate them from 1 to 10. Are they doing this? At the end of that, the decision is, fire them, keep them, or help them succeed. And that's great. The next chapter is then, okay, if you did just fire your CMO, how do you hire a better one? And there's a sort of a generic job description for a CMO. Clearly, each industry is different, so I had to come up with a more generic one, but it's got a sort of a job description and there's some good interview questions, some good homework, case studies to give people an interview, etc. So very pragmatic book. I like to be pragmatic. Then it goes on to execution. Again, lots of sort of interesting stuff in there. One of the ones I'm getting a lot of good feedback is the subject of eliminating waste. So I'm sure a lot of people in this room have heard the phrase, it was from Lord Lever, who was one of the founders of Unilever ages ago, who said, 50% of my marketing budget's wasted, I just don't know which 50%. I would argue that's now rubbish. Anyone wasting marketing money should be shot in the head. Why do I say that? Because you can optimize. It doesn't mean there's no waste, but you should be always saying, where are ads not resonating, stop them. Or change the ad, change the targeting, change the time of day, lower the price. If you just go through and say, okay, I'm going to make sure that every creative I make is made efficiently, every creative is going to have multivariate testing, every bit of targeting is going to be really precise and continuously optimized, etc., we've found on balance that most advertisers can either double the impact for the same spend or halve their marketing spend with the same impact. There is about 50% waste, but you can actually find it and systematically eliminate it over 3 or 6 months or something like that, just by sort of thinking systematically about marketing efficiency. Another big theme in the world of marketing is bringing more in-house. Now, I think this audience is probably one that probably believes in that more because there's a lot of entrepreneurs and startups. Most startups tend to do marketing in-house. For big companies, this is a much bigger struggle. Most big companies historically have had fairly small marketing teams and almost everything's been done by their agency. But I would argue that giving everything to one agency now or soon will be a thing of the past. Why? Because number one, no one agency can be world-class at everything. The skills required to build a world-class website are very different to making great videos, very different to precision-targeted ads, to community management. It's very different. If you pick one agency, you'll be getting mediocre service for most of what they do. That's just reality. The second thing is that if you ask a media agency where you should spend your media dollars, they will probably spend a lot of them where they get the best rebate, not where you get the best ROI. That is inefficient. So for those two reasons, most smart marketers are saying effectively, I plan to become my own agency of record. I will do my own media planning. I will write my own strategy. I will still outsource things like execution. I don't want to have 1,000 people in marketing, but I will decide how much money goes to Facebook versus YouTube versus TV versus print. I will outsource to specialists in each case, and I will hold them closely accountable because I'll do my own analytics. That is something which is basically going on now. Almost everyone's talking about it. A few are doing it. Give it 3 to 5 years. I think you'll find that most companies will become their own agencies of record. And finally, there's a sort of pragmatic section on getting started. So basically, it goes through sort of a summary of the book. How do you assess your marketing team? How do you get them started? How do you give them the right goals, the right metrics, etc.? So with that, my time is up. Hopefully, some of you already got it. If you do want a copy of the book, there are loads just through the back door on the right-hand side. Or if not, then you can either get it on Amazon or drop me an email, and I'll send you a promotional code. So Marketing for CEOs, hopefully you will enjoy it. Oh, and give me feedback, because I'm a digital native. I don't believe the first iteration is good enough. I want to optimize, so if you see any opportunities for improvement, please let me know. Thank you.